Hi, everybody. I cannot wait to say that and hear people scream back, "Hi, Butch." That's one of the biggest things I miss when talking and sharing at an AA meeting is that. But Mickey, wherever you've gone in this cyber stuff that I don't understand, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your contribution to what has happened from the time that you guys put that conference on until now. And I love reading about our history, but I'll tell you, I love much, much more listening to somebody talk about our history. It seems to have a lot different effect when I'm sitting listening to Mickey versus reading it in a book. And absolutely incredible what has happened. It is, you know, I find this very overwhelming tonight. I look at the screen, I see you have 750 people here tonight, and I'm overwhelmed. Let me say that I'm going to just, who knows if I'm going to tell my story. That's what I'm supposed to do, but you never know, that may not happen. I'm just going to, I just like to tell stories and to talk, but I really could spend my allotted time here. What I'd love to be able to, I'm not able to, but to just visit with so many of the folks that are here. Just on this one screen of 25 people, I see people that I've loved and admired for a long, long time. People that mean so much to me in my life and have meant so much to me on this journey, just in this little page of 25 people. And we have 762 people. You know, it is incredible. And it blows my mind what has happened, how alcoholics, man, I'll tell you, our past will be our greatest asset, let me tell you. We know how to put deals together, don't we? we know how to move and you know, AA shuts down, and I'll tell you, within days, this thing's going crazy. It's going crazy within days. Nobody else could put that together. These huge corporations who have figured out that now they can do a lot with this Zoom work-wise, Alcoholics Anonymous is way ahead of them, way ahead of them. And it's just so incredible. But I was sitting here thinking a little bit. I started to cry a little bit just even before Mickey come on. When I just think about Alcoholics Anonymous. When I think about the people that come here, and you know, it's incredible that, you know, Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinions on outside issues. But we as humans, as people, we have opinions, and you'd have to be living in a hole somewhere to not know and sense and feel the disarray that's been going on in the world. But yet you and I come here, and we come in here together, and all of that is out there. All of that is out there, and we can come here together and do what we do. And I was thinking, and Mickey was talking about how it overwhelmed him as he saw that the big book in our program started to come alive from that conference. I don't know that there's anything. And let me say this first. I was a guy, you'll be very surprised to hear this, but I can be very close-minded. I was a guy that when this started, I was not in favor of it. I was not in favor of it. I didn't really want anything to do. People were asking me to come to a group and share a little bit, and I was saying no. I was saying no. And rationalize it and justifying it in my own mind. And what it truly was, the reason was selfishness and self-centeredness, closed-mindedness, you know, the ego. That I'm not comfortable talking on here. Well, how will I sound talking on here? And all of a sudden, after about a month or 2 months, it hit me one time, and I'm in prayer and that. And I thought to myself, how could you get to a point where you think saying no is what God would have you do? I mean, I was astounded. And since then, I've fallen in love with this. But it is amazing to me of how the message of our book has transpired in this Zoom time. There is more people hearing about our program rather than just don't drink and go to meetings nonsense. who are hearing about our program and this spiritual, beautiful life that we get to live. This Zoom area, I believe, this time, I hope it's over soon. I hope we're together in rooms soon. But I believe that this thing, in its way, has moved AA to a place in such a quick time, more than anything that ever happened since the beginning of AA. Incredible. And to somehow for us to be here when this started, and this will be history one day. So I am really, truly grateful to be here and to be part of this. I know all of the people taking part, people that I listened to on cassettes. Some of you people won't know what that is. It was a small thing. And that I listened to when I was new. Peter, right here on the screen tonight, I remember listening to Peter on CDs, and so many of the people taking part in this weekend that I've got to know and become friends with. And so I cannot put into words, and I'm obviously not doing well at it, I cannot put into words how grateful I am to be here and to be a part of this thing with you tonight. And the great news is I feel grateful like that wherever I go and do in Alcoholics Anonymous, whether it's 809 people or 2 people. I am as grateful to be as one as I am the other. I had a beautiful night at Marty's group last night with those guys. I love those bunch. And anyway, it's beautiful. I'm looking forward to this weekend. And you know that time when you said we were early, Allie? I just used it up. So. It says in the book, if you're an alcoholic of my type, that we will get to a place where we can't imagine life with drinking, but we can't imagine life without drinking. And when you and I get to that place, we will know a loneliness such as few people know. And we here this weekend have known that loneliness. We have known it. Yet here we sit this weekend together and having an incredible time, and that loneliness has vanished. But I know out of this 822 people here tonight, there are some new people here who are experiencing that loneliness. And I and we want you to know that you don't ever have to feel that way again. That we are here for you, that we will support you, that we will take you through this process and show you a brand new way of life that you never knew existed. You please just stay here for you new folks. That's why we are here this weekend. That is the point of this, is for you. So I, again, am grateful to be here and be a part of it. My home group is the Three Legacies group, Alcoholics Anonymous. We meet on Mondays and Thursdays in Barrie. If you're ever there, we'd love to have you there. I'm a group guy. I believe in the home group. I'm a guy that believes that the home group is the heartbeat of AA, the heartbeat of AA. I believe that we can only be as effective as the group that supports us. I think we can only be effective when working with others when we have an environment where they can come to where recovery is happening. And so I love home group. I go to my home group. I don't go there and float out, but I'm going to tell you that when I go there, I feel better than when I am there. And I love going there. And I belong to a group that's a Three Legacy group where all 3 legacies are in place, recovery, where we teach, and out of our big book of the Alcoholics Anonymous, unity and service, where it's not just 1 or 2 individuals constantly doing everything, but we work together as a home group to carry the message. We don't open the door and hope people come. We go get them. We have committees that go to our detox every Monday and Thursday and bring those new people to our groups. And we have a beginner's room for those new people. I don't know at your group, but I go to many meetings and I hear the chairperson, we got people in there from detox centers, and we say to them, join a group and get a sponsor. Like they somehow know what that means. So we have that beginner's room so they can find out what it means to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, what it means to get a sponsor, what Alcoholics Anonymous is and what it isn't, what we do and what we don't do. And I belong to a group where there's enthusiasm. I like enthusiasm. You're going to find this hard to believe tonight, but I'm an enthusiastic guy. I love enthusiasm. Don't you love it at your home group, huh? Huh, Peter? That when you walk into that room and that laughter is in the room and there's an energy in the room, there's a buzz. It's just like being in a bar. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Everybody talking, nobody listening. Nobody listening. Alcoholics, the most self-centered people in the world. Have you ever tried to talk to somebody after the meeting? 10 people walk up and say, I don't mean to interrupt. Oh, yes, you do. Oh, yes, you do. Enthusiasm, that laughter. It's important that we have that laughter in the room. It is important that those new people know that we're not a glum lot and that we absolutely insist upon enjoying life. And there is much more to Alcoholics Anonymous than just not drinking and going to meetings. If you come to our home group on a Thursday night, Marty, and a lot of the boys have been there, I promise you there'll be half a dozen people at that door to shake your hand and welcome you. Because I'm a guy that believes that's one of the most single important things that we do as a home group, to be at that door when that new guy or new gal walk through for their first meeting. Because an in-depth version of step 4 doesn't mean a damn thing to them, but a warm handshake. Warm handshake. Get a cup of coffee and come here and sit with us. And a little bit of kindness means a whole lot to that guy or gal that's brand new. So I hope you come to our home group one night and do that. Anyway, I was 4 years old. I was 4 years old, and my ma's neighbor came over to my ma's house. Now, my ma didn't know this guy too good, but he made the effort to come over. He came to my ma's house, knocked at the door. We had a little home, and my mom let him in, and I was sitting over in the living room. And that guy pointed over to me and looked at my mom and said, I want you to know something. You're raising a juvenile delinquent. I'm 4 years old, for God's sakes. And this guy says my mom's raising a juvenile delinquent. Now, I got to tell you this. That guy turned out to be a prophet. He was a prophet. I'm 10 years old, 11 years old, and I'm in the classroom at school, and the teacher announces that there's going to be a walkathon where you get people to pledge money and you walk a lot of miles and the poor people get the money. So she said, I want you to come up to the front here and get your sheet to get your pledges on. Now, I sat at the back of the class where the smart kids sit. And I made a conscious decision from the time I got to the back of the class to the front of the class that I'm taking 2 sheets, one for the poor people, one for me. I figure if I'm walking, I'm getting some of the green. And that's how I was to go through the next 20 years of my life, lying, cheating, and stealing, some sort of sense of entitlement, that I don't need to do a hard day's work for a good day's pay. I go out in that world and I take what I want. I'm an extreme example of self-will run riot, and I haven't even started doing serious drinking yet. I'm 25 years old, and by now my wife has thrown me out of our home. And I want to tell you that I loved her as much as I was capable of loving at that time. It's important that I say that to you, as much as I was capable of loving at that time. I had a new address every night. I lived in the stairwells of apartment buildings on Eglinton Avenue. I just went from building to building. At the nighttime, I was under that stairwell. In the daytime, I was like a rat in a sewer, out in those streets looking to score, looking to scam, looking to rip somebody off to get the money I need to get to do the things I need to do. I hear people in Alcoholics Anonymous talk about AA luggage, matching green garbage bags. I didn't have any AA luggage. I had the clothes on my back. Still had an ultra suede jacket though. Gonna be cool at any expense. I'm 25 years old. I'm living in the stairwells of apartment buildings. I got the clothes on my back, and nobody wants anything more to do with me. And let me add right now, nor should they. Because alcoholics like me are users and takers. I use and I take from everybody I come in contact with. Now, it doesn't always appear that way, because I'm a guy who wants everybody to like him. I'm the guy who's constantly seeking your attention. I'm the guy in the bar buying the drinks for everybody, passing a bag of powder around. Everybody's friend, good old Butch. Let me tell you, the only reason I ever did anything for anyone was so you'd like me, not because I cared about you. I couldn't care less if you lived or died. It made no difference to me. I'm a taker. And I'll tell you who I take from most, the people who love me. the people who love me, because they love me so much they can't stop trying. One more time, this time it's going to work. And they keep giving and giving, and I keep taking and taking, till eventually I break their hearts. And that's where I am. I'm in the East End of Toronto one night. I'm all jacked up and nowhere to go, as I said. And my wife and I owned a home in the beaches down at the lakefront. And we had a screened-in porch and a couple wicker couches there. And I thought, I'm going to slip in there and get a couple hours and get out before she wakes up. Well, I pass out, and I wake up to one of these. And I opened my eyes and looked, and there was that little gal that I loved. And she looked at me with disgust and pity. And she said, Butch, you're a useless piece of scum, and you'll never change. And if you cared anything about me, you would get up and get out of here, and please don't ever come back, because I can't stomach to look at you. And I got up and I left, and it was a hot, hot summer day. I'm hungover, I'm dirty, and I'm heartsick. And I walked down to the boardwalk down on the lakefront. And I'm sitting down there on a park bench in that condition. And about 10 feet away from me, there was another bench, and there was a little boy, 5 or 6 years old, sitting there eating a popsicle. And I looked over at that little boy, and you know what I thought to myself? Wish I had a dime for a popsicle. The big shot, the dope dealer, everybody's friend, good old Butch, sitting on a park bench wishing he had a dime for a popsicle. Nobody in this world wanting anything more to do with me. And here was the thought that I had at that moment, as clear as I'm thinking right now tonight. I knew at that moment that that park bench, or somewhere like it, was where I was going back to every single time, and I knew it beyond a shadow of a doubt. I was 25 years old. I came to Alcoholics Anonymous when I was 33. I had 8 more years on those streets. And I will not bore you tonight with a horror story, because I don't believe it would serve any purpose. You see, if you're an alcoholic like me, you already know it never gets better. It always gets worse. And I had 8 more years on those streets. I came to Alcoholics Anonymous when I was 33, and I joined a group. And I got a sponsor. And I did the things you guys told me to do. Forget this suggested crap, the stuff you told me to do. You know where I was now a number of years ago, Graham? Huh? I was in Rome, Italy. Oh, Rome, Italy. Standing in the Sistine Chapel, looking at the paintings of Michelangelo from hundreds of years before, my wife standing beside me, and the tears started to roll down my cheeks. And I thought of that guy sitting on the park bench wishing he had a dime for a popsicle. Long way from that park bench to the Sistine Chapel in Rome. It is a long way from where you and I come from. Many of us here tonight, the dredges of society. Many of us here tonight, our own families didn't want us any longer. Yet here we sit tonight, members of Alcoholics Anonymous and Al-Anon, living good, rich, full, productive lives. How do we get from where we were to where we sit tonight, Marty? How does that happen for you and I? Because it's not supposed to. But you know how it happens, don't you? It happens one way and only one way, and that is through the grace of God. Through the grace of God, a loving God, a forgiving God that you introduced me to through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous and a fellowship called Alcoholics Anonymous. You sure want to believe I'm grateful to be here and be a part of this thing and your society tonight. I started to drink at an early age. I hear people talk about dysfunctional families. Was my family dysfunctional? I don't know. There wasn't the Cleaver residence at my home, I'll tell you. I said to my sponsor one time, I said, Bob, I said, you think I come from a dysfunctional home? He said, you were in it. Cruel man, cruel man. I don't know if I came from a dysfunctional home, but I'll tell you, there was lots of parties in my home, lots of drinking in my home. As a little boy, they let me play bartender. I could take them beers and take away the empties. They'd say, isn't he cute? And I loved that attention. So I started to drink when I was 4 years old. Now, I wasn't a daily drinker when I was 4. My allowance wouldn't allow it. I actively sought out alcohol. I was, 12 years old. I got a guy to go into a liquor store, get us a couple bottles of wine, a couple bottles of Old Sailor. Come Alive for $1.05. And I'll tell you, if any wine I ever drank had a cap, not a cork. I think it's comparable to, Peter, what you call Thunderbird in your country. Anyway, we got that wine, got drunk, puked, and passed out, and that was the end of my social drinking. All downhill from there. I don't know if you have this at your groups or not, but I have to hear people come into a group in a meeting and they say things like this, that they came to Alcoholics Anonymous, hoping Alcoholics Anonymous was going to help them become a social drinker. Really? Came to Alcoholics Anonymous, hoping Alcoholics Anonymous was going to help them become a social drinker. Let me tell you tonight, I didn't want to be a social drinker when I drank. I don't want to be a social drinker tonight. I don't particularly like social drinkers. I find them weird. Weird. You ever watch a social drinker drink? They let the ice melt in their glass. Sick. That's alcohol abuse right there. You ever drink with a social drinker? It's enough to make you puke, isn't it? You're having a few scoots. Would you like another one? Oh, no thanks. I'm starting to feel it. Really? I thought that's when you put it in overdrive. Social drinkers. Now, I got to tell you this. My beautiful wife, Dee, my beautiful wife, Dee's in the living room. All the boys know Dee. My wife is a social drinker. And a little while ago, Peter, we have an open concept home in our home. And I looked over and Dee was in the kitchen and she had a bottle of wine on the counter with a funnel in it. I thought, what's she doing with that funnel? So I watched her and she took a glass of wine and started pouring it into the funnel. I said to her, hey, what are you doing over there? She says to me, I put too much in the glass. Oh, Jesus, Murphy. I said, don't you ever do that again. I'll divorce you, social drinker. I'm a barroom drinker. I don't identify with closet alcoholics. Doesn't mean they're not alcoholic, just different than me. You know those people that get the bottle, go in and lock the door, put on the country western music? I don't identify. Barroom drinker. Love bars. Love it. I like opening the door to a bar. That smoke it billow out, the tinkle of glass, the smell of stale urine. I love it. I love it. And I like neon. I like neon when I was drinking. I still like neon. That's why I stay out of those casinos. They're not good for guys like me. And I got to tell you this, Peter, I thank God I never tried to get sober in the United States of America. I don't know if I'd have made it. God, I love drinking there. I love drinking there. They got many more there than we got here in Canada, guys. I call them juke joints. You know those divey, scuzzy little bars, those little rat hole joints with a neon sign? Says cocktails. Oh, I went to an AA thing a number of years ago in Pennsylvania. My wife decided to come with me, Jane. And we're going through this little town in the middle of nowhere. I'm driving down the main street. I hammer on the brakes to my car. I'm back in my car. My wife said to me, Butch, what are you doing? I said, I got to see this again. There it was, guys. This divey, rat little scuzzhole bar had a neon sign. Said, stop for one, stay till one. If I'd have been drinking, I'd have had that tattooed on me. Anyway, I'm not going to talk anymore about my drinking tonight, other than to quickly share with you what drinking does for me. And the things that I'm going to share with you, I did not know this at the time. Most of what I share with you, I did not know at the time. What I share with stuff is what I learned with you. When you took me through inventory back through my life and helped me see my life honestly for the very first time ever. For the very first time ever. But as I look back today, I remember being a young boy in school, 10 years old, 11 years old, and the teacher would ask a question, and she'd start looking around that room to see if she was going to answer that question, and my head would go down like this. Oh, Jesus, don't let her ask me. Because I knew if she made eye contact with me, she's going to ask me to answer the question, and I don't want to answer the question. Doesn't even matter if I know the answer, I don't want to answer the question. When I went to school, we used to have to do book report. Get out in front of all the kids, no good. No, I get up in the morning, I'd say, Ma, I've been puking all night. I'm sick. I can't go to school today. Please don't make me go. Because I want to tell you, I would be terrified at the thought of getting up in front of that classroom full of kids. Every decision I made was based on fear. Most of it unfounded and ungrounded, but fear. Where I go, what I do, who I hang out with is all based on a comfort level. I don't know about any of you guys. I every now and then would get goofy. I go on about a 5-day run. I come home on a Sunday after being gone for 5 days. My wife would be sitting there waiting. I'd walk in that house. I'd say, sweetheart, that's it. No more. I mean, I know I said this last week, but this time I swear in my ma's life, I'm never having another drink of whiskey as long as I live. That Sunday, I wake up Monday. I think to myself, I shouldn't have said that. I should not have said that. I'd have to go to a wedding that following Saturday. You ever go to a wedding sober? That is a bad deal. That is, I would be at that church sweating, thinking about the reception that's going to start in 3 hours. I'm back at that dance, and the dance is going to start, and I don't have anything in me, and my hands are sweaty. I got a knot in the pit of my gut, and I feel awkward, and it is horrible. And I have to do one of two things: get over and get a couple drinks into me, or get out of there, because I can't stand the way I feel. And every decision I make in my life is based on that fear. You want to know what kills an alcoholic like me? I don't even know I'm afraid. I think I'm afraid of nothing, and I'm afraid of everything, and I don't even know it. We talk an awful lot in these topic meetings. Let's discuss resentments tonight, huh? Isn't that nice? I prefer to call it hate. Hate. I know you guys aren't that sick, but up in Barrie we are. Hate. I'm the type of alcoholic, I'm in my car, I'm at a red light, and I'm on the nod by now. That light would turn green and the guy behind me lays on his horn. I almost go through the roof of my car. I want to get out of my car, go back there, open the door, drag him out by his throat, take a crowbar and crack his skull open. Now, I know you nice people here don't think thoughts like that, but I do. I'm not talking anger management here. I'm talking rage. I'm talking the kind of anger that I don't have 10 minutes before and I don't have 10 minutes after. But I have an anger inside of me that comes out every now and then that I can't control. And I say things to people or do things to people I never wanted to do. And you want to know who takes the brunt of my anger? It happens behind closed doors. The people who love me take the brunt of my anger, because I am a guy who's constantly seeking your approval. So you don't display that there. The people whose approval I think I already have take the brunt of my anger. Lonely, lonely. I'm standing at a subway platform in downtown Toronto on a Saturday night, all jacked up, and a train pulls up and the doors open and a young couple get off that train holding hands, and they walk off into the night laughing and smiling. And I look at that couple and I feel sad. I think, why can't I be like those people? Why is all the trouble got to keep happening in my life? I just like to be like other people. From as long as I can ever remember, I was restless, irritable, and discontented. If I was at this bar, I'd say, drink up, let's go to the other bar. We're at this party, let's go down to that party. Married to you, should be married to her. Never quite right. And I'll tell you, I'd take one of those double vodkas, huh? And those sweaty hands would go away. That knot in my gut was gone. The rage subsides and the loneliness vanishes. And I walk into that wedding like I own the joint. And I am moving and grooving. And I am talking to the ladies and I'm sitting with my buddies. And at that moment, everything in my life is absolutely perfect. Same wedding, same hall, same music, same people, same food, same everything. But you put 4 vodkas in me and my perception of reality changes. And I get an immediate, not in 28 days, an immediate sense of ease and comfort. And that is why I drink whiskey, because I like the effects it produces. But I'm alcoholic. Something happens to me that doesn't happen to the non-alcoholic, called a phenomenon of craving. And I'd start drinking, I'd end up drinking 60 ounces of vodka and I'd smash up my car. I go out after work for a few beers with my buddies. I go on a 5-day bender. I don't go to work, I lose my job. I tell my wife I'm going out for a loaf of bread. I run into Allie. I come home 3 months later. My wife's sleeping. I'm out there drinking, partying, carrying on. I don't want to stop. I got no money, so I'm stealing yours. And now I go to jail. And what everybody focused on in my life was crash cars, broken marriages, lost jobs, going to jails. We looked at drinking. We looked at drinking. We never looked at alcoholism. And people had told me since I was 18 years old, if I just quit drinking whiskey and sticking needles in my arms, I'd be okay. And there were times I wasn't drinking whiskey, and guess what? I wasn't okay. As a matter of fact, I'm crazier sober than I ever was when I drank. But all those well-meaning people could see, and they were well-meaning, was that when I drank, the trouble that followed. So naturally, they said, stop drinking, you'll be all right. But those well-meaning people didn't understand how I feel when I'm sober. How could they know? I didn't know. I would love to tell you tonight, I woke up one morning, HFC Finance was dying to lend me money. Work was thinking of promoting me, and my wife was sending me flowers. And I thought, I think I'll join AA today, huh? Every now and then I hear some moron in one of these rooms say things like, if you're not here for the right reasons, you might as well drink. And every now and then I'd like to get that tire iron back out. The right reasons? Did you come to Alcoholics Anonymous for the right reasons? I come to Alcoholics Anonymous because I had nowhere else to go. One more time, my back was against the wall. My boss called me into work on a Tuesday. He said, Butch, you're a hard worker. I said, well, thank you. He said, but you're not here often. Picky, picky, picky. He said, you think you might have a problem with alcohol? I said, no, but I know what the problem is. He said, maybe you'd share that with me. I said, it's my health. He said, really? I said, yes. Now, granted, my poor health may have something to do with my drinking. I'm going to quit drinking. My health's going to get better. Everyone's going to be okay. He said, do you think you might need some help quitting drinking? I said, no, I'm just going to quit. Got up and left his office. Was to find out later his wife had been a member of Alcoholics Anonymous for many years. Can you imagine the chuckle he had as I left? Huh? He's just going to quit. That was Tuesday. I woke up Thursday in another hotel room in another town drunk. I didn't keep him waiting long. And for whatever the reason that morning, I knew the jig was up. You know, like you've used all the lies. Alcoholics are liars. I don't know what that's about. I will lie when the truth would serve me better. I am a pathological liar. I'm the type of alcoholic that goes out and plays golf all by himself and cheats on the scorecard. That's not the best part. At the end, I look at the card and go, good game, Butch, good game. So I've used all the lies. I know I got to come up with something good. I had a couple tequilas. I turned my mind to it. It came to me. I said, I'm alcoholic and I'm going to go to Alcoholics Anonymous. And that's how I came to AA. And if there's anybody here tonight who's new, we couldn't care less why you're here. We couldn't care less why we're here. We're just glad to see you. And maybe by the grace of God, something you'll hear this weekend, something you'll see, and the miracle of Alcoholics Anonymous can happen in your life. And you can go on to live a happy and useful life like so many men and women here have been able to do. Just keep coming. And I want to tell you, I've been a blessed man since the day I came to Alcoholics Anonymous. On September the 21st, 1989, two men came to my mother's house practicing Alcoholics Anonymous in its purest form. Now that should tell you something right there, shouldn't it? My mother's house. Somewhere every 33-year-old self-respecting alcoholic should be is with his mummy. Two men came to my mother's house practicing Alcoholics Anonymous in its purest form. They made the effort to leave their homes that night. Drove, came to my mother's house and talked to me about their drinking. They did not talk to me about my drinking. They did not tell me I shouldn't drink, I shouldn't drug, I should go to treatment. They didn't tell me nothing. Those two men talked to me about their drinking and told me what had happened in their lives since they came to something called Alcoholics Anonymous. Would I like to go to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous with them? I was a helpless, hopeless, chronic alcoholic. I had been running the streets, drinking whiskey and sticking needles in my arm since I was 13 years old. And those two men came to my mother's house that night, September the 21st, 1989, took me to my first meeting, Alcoholics Anonymous, and have been with you ever since that night. I don't know what to tell you about that, but I want to tell you that I am extremely grateful for that experience, because that's not everybody's experience that comes to Alcoholics Anonymous, but that was mine. And I've been a blessed man since the day I come here. I have a deep, deep love in my heart for the old timers. Men and women have been coming for 30 and 40 and 50 years. Guys like Mickey and others here tonight. I love them from the bottom of my heart. And if you are new to Alcoholics Anonymous, I would strongly urge you to get close to these men and women and learn from their experience, because we won't have them with us forever. And I had some giants come into my life. I've heard people in Alcoholics Anonymous say you should never put people on pedestals. Well, you do what you need to do. But let me tell you right now, I have some people on pedestals, giants in our program, many of them right here this weekend. Never for a moment have I lost sight of their humanities. The greatest gift, my sponsor was an old timer in Alcoholics Anonymous. My sponsor came to Alcoholics Anonymous on July the 17th, 1958, and was an active member of Alcoholics Anonymous until the day he died on June the 10th, 2004. And the greatest gift that old man ever gave me It wasn't some profound thing he pulled out of the book, some divine spiritual wisdom he laid on me. The greatest gift that old man ever gave me was he allowed me to see his warts. He allowed me to see him get afraid. He allowed me to see him get angry. He allowed me to see him get selfish. He allowed me to see all of him, because if he hadn't, and you don't continue to, I will never measure up. We are much more brothers and sisters in our defects than we are in our virtues, aren't we? And I had some wonderful people come into my life, none more than my own sponsor. I don't know about you, but I had no idea what my problem was when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous. I had no idea. Maybe you knew, but I'll tell you today, I didn't know. Now, I had a lot of people tell me what my problem was. I can tell you that. Like my wife told me what my problem was. My bosses, I had some judges tell me, a couple psychiatrists. I'd heard my whole life, Butch, just quit drinking. You'll be okay. Huh? You'll be okay. You were the first people that said to me, kid, drinking's not your problem. How you feel when you're sober is your problem. You see, sober, I'm prone to misery and depression. Sober, I can't seem to control my emotional natures. Sober, I can't form true relationships with others. Sober, I can't seem to be of use. Sober, I'm full of fear and unhappy. That's how I am sober. Friends, that is a spiritual malady. That is an unmanageable life. And you told me that that was my problem. I didn't have a clue. I didn't have a clue. I thank God for strong sponsorship. I am the product of strong sponsorship, and I believe in strong sponsorship. And I'm a guy that believes that without strong sponsorship, our chances of recovery become very, very limited. Very, very limited. And you told me that Alcoholics Anonymous was about change. It was about change. You taught me some basic things when I came here, little things. You taught me to come to the meeting early, go to the washroom, get my coffee, sit down and be quiet. Maybe you don't want to listen to what's going on in there, Butch, but maybe those other people do. And for once in your life, why don't you think of someone else other than yourself? Huh? When I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, I couldn't say a full sentence without four-letter words in it. I didn't know anything. I've been on those streets all that time. And you came to me with kindness. You didn't embarrass me in an AA meeting. You didn't center me out in front of people. You came to me after in kindness and love and said, kid, this is Alcoholics Anonymous. This isn't some juke joint bar room you're in now. This is a classy organization of men and women, and we don't use that language in here. Maybe it doesn't bother you, but maybe it bothers that gentleman sitting there. And for once in your life, why don't you think of someone else other than yourself? It was true. You told me that selfishness and self-centeredness was the root of my troubles. The root of my troubles. I had absolutely no idea. If you'd asked me when I come to Alcoholics Anonymous, what kind of a guy are you? I'd have said to you, Peter, I'm a good guy. And you could have hooked me up to a lie detector test and asked me that question, and that needle would not budge, because I believed that. I believed it. And let me tell you why I believed it. You see, I always judge myself by my intentions. You see, my intentions were always good. Unfortunately, the world judges us by our actions, and my actions and intentions never lined up. Selfishness and self-centered, the root of my troubles. And from that selfishness and self-centeredness comes 100 forms of fear and all my resentments, but all based in self. And you told me above everything, I must be rid of this selfishness or else it will kill me. And there seems no way of getting rid of it without God's help. And that, you told me, was the purpose of our 12 steps. That is the purpose. Through some actions that I take and some principles I try to live by, I can get connected to a power greater than myself. I thank God for that sponsorship. You helped me see what my problem was and took me through that solution that I'm not going to talk about tonight, because we're going to hear great talks in our program and our steps all weekend long. But I love that transformation. I said I'm not going to talk about it, and then I talk about it, just a habit I have. But you took me through that inventory. Huh? I listen to people in AA meetings talk about the 4-step. It's like I think they think it's a confessional, for God's sakes. You told me we're going on a fact-finding mission. fact finding. You see, I don't deal with facts. I deal with delusion. At certain times, I cannot differentiate the truth from the false, drunk or sober. And you took me on a fact-finding mission to help me see how self manifests in my life in many different ways. And I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. That's why I need sponsorship. I need self cannot treat self. We have a friend that says the mind that creates the problem cannot solve it. I need your guidance through this process. One of the worst things we do is give a new guy a book and say, here, go do this. And we kill him. We kill him. I need your guidance. I need your experience with this process shared with me. And that's what you have done. And you took me through that inventory. And you took me through the amends process. Incredibly freeing thing for a guy who has been wrapped up in self all his life. All his life. You know, when I was a kid in school, when I was a kid in school, they had the kids who did good and belonged to the teams and all of that. I hated their guts, those kids. I didn't know why then. I know why now. I didn't feel as good as those kids. Then they had the kids behind the school who started to smoke and drink and cause trouble. And that's where I hung out with those kids because I felt a little sharper than most of them. But my entire life, for all my life before AA, for a long time in Alcoholics Anonymous, and today, if I'm not in fit spiritual condition, the first thing I do with every person I meet is I size myself up automatically. And every single time, I'm either better than or less than. But not one single time was I ever the same as. And through the process of amends and these other steps, today, I can just be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. No better than and no less than. Today, I can be one of God's kids, just like you. That is a freeing experience for a guy so tightly wrapped up in self. I've been in a meeting, I've heard people debate for 45 minutes whether they were recovered or recovering. Smoke starts coming out my ears, for God's sakes. Our book is very, very clear on that. But I thank God what you showed me in our book, where it talks about it is easy to let up in a spiritual program of action and to rest on our laurels. And if I do, I'm headed for trouble because I am not cured of alcoholism, not cured. What I have is a daily reprieve that's contingent upon the maintenance of my spiritual condition. And I want to share with you that sometimes the longer I'm in Alcoholics Anonymous, the harder it is for me to be truthful with you. Sometimes the longer I'm in Alcoholics Anonymous, the harder it is for me to come to you and tell you I'm dying inside and I don't know what to do. Because I've been sober a long time and I'm an active member and I want you to think I have it all together. I know you don't have to worry about stuff like that, but I do. It is easy for me, It is easy for me. I know you, again, you don't have to worry about this, but very easy for me the longer I'm sober to start becoming critical and judgmental. Don't you worry about it. I need to know. Look what they're doing. Oh, look what's going on there. Sometimes it's easy for me to let up in that program of action. I want to tell you that I am more in the center of Alcoholics Anonymous than I have ever been. I am as active as I have ever been in all these years. I am closer with God than I have ever been in my life. And I want to tell you something. I am right there because I have a lot more to lose tonight than I did on September the 21st, 1989. I'm telling you right now, I ain't going nowhere. You're stuck with me. I'm staying right here in the center of Alcoholics Anonymous with you guys. And the great gift, you introduced me to that loving God. You introduced me to a loving God. When I come to Alcoholics Anonymous, I was not a disbeliever. If you'd have said to me, do you believe in God? I would have said, yeah, I believe in God. It had as much meaning in my life as the price of coffee beans in Brazil today, but I wasn't a disbeliever. And if you'd have asked me about God, God was way up there in heaven. And he had a long hair and a big beard and a big stick. And if you are good, good things happen. And if you are bad, bad things happen. Chuck Chamberlain used to say that we have one problem and only one problem. And from that one problem comes all our other problems, but we just have the one problem. And that one problem is a conscious separation from God. Well, if God's way up there and I'm down here, have you ever heard more of a conscious separation in your life? You were the first people that said to me, no, kid. Deep down inside of every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. And in the final analysis, it is only there that he can be found. And the great reality, the central fact of my life is my Creator has entered my heart and lives in a way that is indeed miraculous. You introduced me to that loving God through your stories and watching your actions. That's why we tell our story in Alcoholics Anonymous. That is the purpose of an AA talk, in our own language and from our own point of view, how we're able to find a power greater than ourselves. You did that for me. I love the language of Bill Wilson in our book. The longer I am here, I believe that book is like a spiritual vortex. I don't care how long I'm sober. I don't care how long I've walked along this path. I don't care how much I pray and meditate. I can open that book at any time in my life and read a paragraph, and I will see that in a way that was different than when I seen it last week. There is no end to the spirit in this thing. It is incredible. And I love his language when Bill said that we will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could never do for ourselves. I know many of you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say this, and if you don't, I pray God you stay here till you do. But you know that time, Marty, when you know, when you read something or you hear something and your eyes fill up with tears, and you know. You know, I come to be with you many weekends in the year for a long, long time now, and I come to go to a conference. I leave my home, it's a 40-minute drive to the airport. And I get in my car early Friday morning because I like to go to the conference early. I go to the conference to be a part of it. I don't go there to be a speaker. I ain't an AA speaker. You start being a speaker, you stop being a member. I go there to be a part of the conference, and I get up early and I get in my car and I drive down that highway, and the sun is shining, and I stick a little Leonard Skinner in, a little free bird, a little simple man. And that sun is shining, and I think of what you've done for me in my life, what you have given to me and my family, and the tears pour down my face. And for a moment, I am conscious of the presence of God. And I go from believing to knowing. And there is a big difference. I can go to detox centers, treatment centers tonight and say, you people believe in a higher power? Oh, yes, sir, higher power, higher power. Everybody's got a higher power. And 90% of those people are drunk in 90 days. If the believing was enough, we'd only need 2 steps. I need to be connected to that power. And because of you, you have introduced me to that loving God that is a real working part in my life. And this thing, this whole package becomes then a design for living, a way of life for us. And it is the greatest gift in the world. We've been given much, haven't we? Haven't we, Ali? We've been given much. We could ask the people, we got 999 people. We got 999 people. And we could ask the people on here, just on this screen, how is your life since you come to Alcoholics Anonymous or Al-Anon? And you know the answers we'd hear. It's the greatest gift in the world. There's nothing, it is the greatest thing that ever happened to me was being introduced to this program and this loving God and this way of life. If you and I haven't been given enough, if we haven't been given enough, you and I are then given the power to change people's lives. That's not an ego statement. That is a statement with gratitude and humility. You and I, when armed with facts about ourselves, that's what this process is doing. We have a singleness, a primary purpose, but our book says our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and those about us. When armed with those facts and have this solution, you and I are able to win the entire confidence of an alcoholic in a few short hours when nobody else was able to. Until such an understanding happens, nothing can happen for him. We've been incredibly gifted to help others, incredibly gifted. The joy in our life to work with other alcoholics. You know, to watch others get well, you know, to be with one another, the bright spot in our life, to watch others get well, to watch a fellowship grow up around us and know a host of friends. This is an experience we'll not want to miss. That's what this is about, this fellowship of the Spirit this weekend. To work with others, to do this work, to go on and on. Incredible thing. I got 5 minutes left, right, Ali? Okay. I want to share a story with you tonight about power in my life. I go to a detox every Monday. I've gone there for 28 years, not because I'm wonderful. It's the way I've been taught. And I go to that detox and I go in there and I try to carry a message to hope to these people, help them understand our illness and things like that. And I leave, but I don't leave there blindly. See, I know some of those people in there, when they leave there in 2 days, they don't have anywhere else to go. They don't have a home to go to. They don't have a family to go to. They're going, many of them, right back out on those streets. And I know it sounds real nice where I can go in and tell a nice story, you know, and have a nice car out there and a home in the parking lot, or in the parking lot. But to some of those people, that sounds like a fairy tale. But I tell those people that we're not here to try to make you think we come and do 12 steps and every day in our life is beautiful. Life goes on. Life goes on. A number of years ago, our 5-year-old granddaughter, Sarah, was diagnosed with leukemia. And she had to go to Sick Kids Hospital for 5 months. And she had to have chemotherapy and a spinal tap once a week. That little girl never complained one single day, not one single day. And after 5 months, the cancer went away and Sarah came home, cancer-free. And 4 or 5 months later, the cancer came back. And they said it's worse this time. And she has to come back. She's going to spend 5 or 6 months having the strongest chemo. We have the strongest radiation, and she has to have a bone marrow transplant. She has a 30% chance. And so as we went through that and she had all of that radiation and that, we didn't have a match for the bone marrow. Our son-in-law had a vasectomy, so he got it reversed in the hopes that Leah could get pregnant and have a baby, because a family member's 25% chance of being a match. Matthew was born and he wasn't a match. So they decided they're going to do the stem cell transplant. It's something newer that we do today. But it meant Sarah was going to be in isolation for 4 months and very, very sick. They wipe everything out of you. There is nothing left in you. They did that stem cell transplant and the doctors couldn't believe what they saw. They had never done a stem cell transplant with someone who'd just given birth. Now, I don't understand any of this, but there was something about the birth that made that stem cell work wonderful. They were on Sick Kids Hospital all over the world, St. Jude's, all of those places. And Sarah wasn't in isolation for 4 months. She was there 4 weeks and wasn't even sick. And she came home cancer-free. And 4 months later, the cancer came back. And they said, there's no more treatment. You take your daughter home, she has 6 months, and you have the best time you can with her. Now, I'm going to tell you, in that time, our granddaughter did a lot of things, Peter. Our granddaughter met Justin Bieber. Our granddaughter heard Katy Perry. Our granddaughter drove a real race car. In October, the Toronto Zoo brought reindeer to the house in a sleigh and a Santa Claus, because she wasn't going to be here in Christmas. And she had a Christmas with real reindeer. And they brought lions to the house and tigers, and she did a lot of things. And on November 2nd of that year, we buried our 7-year-old granddaughter. And that was a horrible thing. That was a horrible thing. Somebody said to me, Butch, how does that God you talk about, that God that you say is so loving and so kind and so forgiving, how does that God let that little 7-year-old girl die? That little girl never did anything to anybody. And I said, God had absolutely nothing to do with Sarah passing. But the moment she passed, God had everything to do with that. There is a line in our book that if you and I do certain things, we are going to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, and the hereafter. I have no idea what this looks like. I can't define or comprehend. But I believe that there is a place where our little granddaughter is, and maybe somebody that's been ripped out of your life, that is so beautiful that you and I can't believe it. Can't believe it. You know, I've never shared this before, but I'm going to tell you, every single time, including tonight, before I've ever talked, wherever I am, I call Dee, and I say to her, you bring Sarah down to be with me in this meeting tonight. Huh? Talks in the 12 and 12, I'm paraphrasing, so don't be after me after that. Self-examination, prayer, and meditation, when taken separately, work wonderfully. But when logically interwoven, form an unshakable foundation for life. An unshakable foundation for life. Everything that I have in Alcoholics Anonymous, anything I am or ever hope to be, is because of you. Ellie, do I got 5 minutes? When is this ending?
You got 5 minutes. Go ahead.
5 minutes. I got to tell one more story. I love telling stories. I'd like to leave all that stuff and just tell stories. Ellie and I meet every Sunday morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, and for an hour and a half, 6 in the morning, he listens to my stories all the time. He's just a beautiful man. I talk, he listens. So it says in our book that make sure that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. Whoa, what a line. What a line, huh? Here's the quick story. A number of years ago, I got a call if I go to Kelowna, British Columbia, out in the West Coast for a little roundup they were having, and I went there. And on this, I talked Saturday night, and I like talking Saturday night when there's a countdown, because now you can look at the crowd. You don't have to twist your neck so much. So anyway, they were having a countdown, and there was one of those rooms that it was a hall. It was like a gymnasium or something, and it was a little bit dark. But they did the countdown. At the end of the countdown, one day, there was a young gal stood up at the back for one day, and everybody lost their minds, and it was beautiful. It was wonderful. The conference was going to end on Sunday. On the program, it said there was a breakfast and then a speaker, and it was over. I had a morning flight out of there, but I thought I had time to go for the breakfast and maybe a bit of the speaker. So we go over to the hall, and the breakfast was just some tables with some bagels and fruit and that on it. I was there with a few guys, and I got a table by the door so we could slip out without interrupting the meeting. So I'm there, and a gal comes walking in with 2 little children in her hands. And Peter, when you looked at this girl, you knew she was new, and you knew she didn't have much. You could tell the way the kids in that were dressed in that. And it just touched my heart when I saw it. And she come walking up to me, and she said, "Are you Butch?" I said, "Yes, I am." She said, "You talked last night." I said, "Yes, I did." She said, "You said some things that really helped me. I'm the gal that got the book last night. It was my first day, and it really helped me." I said, "Well, thank you very much." And I encourage, stay with us and get a sponsor and do these things. And anyway, she set her 2 kids at the table next to us, and she got up and she went up to get some bagels and fruit for the kids. And as I'm watching her, I start to tear up, because in my mind, I'm thinking, this may be the only meal that those children are having today. And it just tore at my heart. And she did that, and I thought to myself, I'd love to help. Maybe I could give her a few bucks, would help her out a bit in that. But I'm a little leery of some ill geezer giving a young gal money in the meeting, and I'm hemming and hawing. And I was going to go do it, and all of a sudden the chairperson called the speaker. The meeting started. I thought, well, maybe I wasn't supposed to do it. 10 minutes into the meeting, I got to go now, so I give my guy the nudge to let's go. But just then, the gal got up and went out the door. And so I thought, maybe this is my opportunity. So as we're going out the door, she's walking back in, and I said, "We're leaving now." And she thanked me, and I took her hand and I put $100 bill in it. But she saw what it was, and she started to sob. And she said, "You have no idea of what this will mean, not for her, for my children." She said, "I don't know how I could ever pay you back." I said, "You don't need to ever pay me back. But if you stay with us and do what we do, maybe one day you can do the same thing for another gal down the road." And I come home. Now, when I got home, I got to tell you, I just gave up my BlackBerry this year. It was a painful experience, Peter. I've had a hard time with it. I am so untechnical, it's incredible. So at that time, I didn't know how to email or anything. So Dee would check my emails. I don't have anything to hide today. And so Dee would check my emails. And so I'm home about a week or 2, and she says, "Butch, there's an email here I think you should see." So I go and I look, and it's the gal. And she said, "I just wanted to thank you again for what you did for me and helping me. You have no idea how much that helped my children. I'm looking for a little apartment. I'm doing good. I'm still sober. I'm going to try and get back into school." Beautiful. Sometime later, my Dee says to me, "Butch, there's an email here I think you should come and see." I came and saw it, and it's an email from the gal. And it's a nice long letter. She's thanking me from when she first met me and what I'd done to help, all that stuff. Very nice. And she said, "And next week I'm now have an apartment, and I'm in school. I'm going to try and be a nurse. And next week I'm going to be 1 year sober." Man, oh man. Gets better, gets better. Last year, I get a call from British Columbia. Can you come to Kelowna, BC to talk at our thing? I looked, the date was free. I said, yeah, I can come. Before going, Dee says to me, Butch, do you think there's any chance that gal will be there? And I said, well, it would be wonderful, Dee. I said, but chances are, no. That's just the nature of the illness that we suffer from. Anyway, I get there and I'm there at that Friday night and a gal walks up to me. She says, are you Butch? I said, yes, I am. She said, you were here 9 years ago. I said, well, I told the guys I was here a while ago. She said, 9 years. I said, 9 years it is, honey. 9 years it is. She says to me, when you talked, there was a gal here for her first meeting. I said, yes, I know. She said, you gave her $100 to help her children. I said, yes, I know. She said, I want you to know I'm her sponsor. And she is sober 9 years, married and living in Calgary, and she's a nurse. And she saw your name on the flyer, and she just had surgery last week and couldn't come. And she made me come here to hug you and thank you. Man, doesn't get better than that, but it does. I got home from that conference, and about a week later, Dee says, there's a letter here for you from a Calgary. I knew who the letter was from. And I opened the letter, and there was a beautiful letter to me and a picture of her and her 2 children at graduation, a beautiful family. And there was another piece of paper, and I opened up the piece of paper, and it was a $100 bill and a note that said, Butch, I would never do anything to offend you, but I wanted to send you this $100 so that maybe you can pass it on to some other gal like you did me. Alcoholics Anonymous, the fellowship of the Spirit. We are definitely blessed to be here. If I lived to be 1,000, I could never pay you back, and you've never asked me to. But I'll tell you, every single day I say to God that you introduce me to that loving God if you see fit. I sure would appreciate if you keep me in Alcoholics Anonymous. Because my dear friends, there's no place in this world I'd rather be. Allie, thank you, and God bless you. Thanks for having me, guys.